Matt Riddle, it is so good to see you again, my friend.
It's so good to see you. I mean, slightly different circumstances this time, but hey.
Not at a UFC event?
Yep, not
at SummerSlam.
SummerSlam, one of the biggest, grandest stages of them all.
That's
and
right.
yeah, it just feels good to be face to face again, bro.
It does. It does. Thank you. Back in Las Vegas for you.
Mm-hmm.
How many years did you live here?
Lived here for about 6 years, 7 years. Met my wife here, had my 3 kids here, and then once I got released from the UFC, you know, I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do next, and I wanted to get into pro wrestling. And I felt like there was a school here, and it's a good school, but there's not a lot of shows around here. And I know, like, if you want to get good at something, you got to do it all the time. And I moved out to the Northeast and sold my house in Vegas, and that's when I moved away from here.
Do you still represent the MMA community? Like, in a sense, I remember seeing you were doing an indie show. I think it was UFC 203 in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. You and Shayna Baszler were on the card. I think you went up against Dan Severn, if my memory serves me correct.
I wish. I went up against this other guy. I feel bad. I can't remember his name. He was actually a pirate.
Okay.
His character is a pirate.
Maybe Severn
and
was
he
on the
kicked
card.
me in the crotch and pinned me. So that was how that went down. But Dan Severn was there, and so was Shayna Baszler.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Ronda was there. Everybody was there.
It was a good card. It was a good card.
It was a great card.
The reason I bring it up is like, wow, that's Matt Riddle, UFC fighter, now transitioning to wrestler. That's several, I mean, like, we're talking 5 years ago now. Are you still the MMA guy turned wrestler? Or do you think that you are, like, has that label, that persona, that story, that life completely gone away?
You know, I think for a lot of wrestling fans, or especially hardcore, like, independent fans and stuff like that, they know my background, they do their homework, so they understand that whole package. I feel like a lot of the WWE fans or even NXT fans, they know it's my background, but I don't think they know the depth of my career in mixed martial arts, because what they see is this over-the-top character who's very entertaining, but also when I get in the ring, you see that mixed martial arts, you know. So I do think I still represent the mixed martial arts community in wrestling, just like Filthy Tom Lawler, Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I guess we could even throw Goldberg in there. I guess he's had a couple. He's hit some pads, you know, whatever. So yeah, you know, but I think I'm a representative. Ken Shamrock. There's a bunch. Dan Severn.
Right.
You know, but I think I'm one of the guys in that group, for sure.
You had to mention Goldberg, right?
I had. Well, he's been doing some training. He mentioned me the other day, but was nothing too mean. He said he might not like me as a person, which I completely understand. You know, I don't think we'll ever, and I'm wrong. I might be wrong. We might go out for drinks one day, but I doubt me and Goldberg are probably ever gonna break bread like that. But maybe one day. I think he respects my passion for the business, and I respect his aura. I'll say he has an aura. He brings something to a table that I don't bring. And it's different, and I think we both respect each other at that level, and you know, we'll see where the future lies. You know, we'll see what happens.
Did you ever have a moment, perhaps in this return, the one prior, where you took him off to the side and maybe tried to clear the air with him?
You know, I'll say this: Goldberg isn't a man of many words, I don't think. Okay. Neither am I, really. I mean, I talk a lot, but it doesn't really matter. But I saw Goldberg the other day backstage when he first came back, and I was waiting. I was in position. I knew what was probably going to happen. I put myself there, but I want to ease the tension slightly. You know, I don't want this guy to think like we're going to fight every time he shows up to work. That's not who I am.
Right.
You know, I still, you know, like I said, we might have a thing, but he saw me, and he's shaking some hands, and then he comes up to me. I don't think he saw me yet, but then he's like, oh, here's Riddle, and he gave me a funny look, turned his head to the side, and then shook my head and said, hey, congrats, kid. And I was like, oh, thanks, Goldberg. I was like, hey, go kill it out there.
Wow.
And then he went out, cut his promo, and he came back. And when he came back, I was like, hey, good, you know, good stuff. You know, good stuff, Bill. And he goes, and if you remember the first time we talked, there's a part that wasn't caught on camera, but he told me all he needed was 2 moves. And as he walks away, he goes, 2 moves, 2 moves. And I was like, still Bill, you know? But like I said, the guy's got an aura, and I have respect for him, and we might disagree on a couple things, but it is what it is.
It feels like there's a bit of a mutual respect there, maybe because you put in your time. Could you have the same type of convo with Brock Lesnar?
I'm not sure. You know, when we had our little back and forth backstage at the Royal Rumble, I think about 2 years ago at this point now, he did not like me. You know, but I feel like you know, ever since I was a kid, people either hated me or loved me, and I think I just rubbed them the wrong way, just like I rubbed Bill the wrong way. And I think, you know, I'm in the business of making money, just like I went from the UFC, and I think one of the main reasons why I got fired was because I wasn't putting those asses in seats. I needed to put more butts in seats. If I would have, I saw other people in my same position or even worse, and they didn't lose their jobs. I did. So I made it a point to, you know, make myself valuable, and I felt like at that point when I talked to Brock, I wasn't valuable enough to him. And same thing with Goldberg. When I was talking some trash, I wasn't valuable. But now they're starting to see my stock rise like I said it would as long as I put the work in. And maybe not now. I'm hoping we can. The last time I talked to Brock, it did not look good. It did not look promising. I don't think he'll ever wrestle me. But I think as long as I keep working, I keep grinding, I keep upping my value and upping my stock, eventually, I mean, it's going to be the right choice for them, you know? And that's my goal, to keep that in-ring work hard hitting, intense, and then on that microphone in front of that camera, be as entertaining to the mass audience as possible. Because we talk to kids, we talk to 18s, we talk to grown-ups, we talk to seniors. I'm talking to everybody, and that's why I act the way I do, because I know it's contagious for everybody.
Okay, you know? Speaking of that audience, they weren't there for the vast majority of the past year and a half. How challenging was that for you as a fan favorite?
Honestly, I kind of liked it.
Okay.
It reminded me of when I was on The Ultimate Fighter. So it was kind of refreshing. And, you know, when you first, even though you wrestle and you do all this and you're on camera and, you know, I've done pay-per-views and all, it's different when you start working for different people. And even though it's one company, there's a lot of different umbrellas. And when I started working directly under Vince and stuff like that, you know, I was kind of glad I got to do it in the Thunderdome era, because I felt like I didn't have to rely on crowd reaction or anything. I had to get myself over, as people say, in front of him, in front of nobody. And I had to do it with no audiences and everything. And I had to prove myself. I honestly consider myself one of the only people that got more over in the Thunderdome era with no fans around, which is almost like like how do you get more popular in an era with no fans, you know, only TV viewers. So it was difficult, but I think that also showed, you know, the company how valuable I am and how dependable I am and everything else, you know.
Can you take me back to the embryonic stages of RK Bro? Where does the idea come from? Who deserves credit?
Well, 10 years ago. No.
10, wow.
Well, I would say this, RK Bro, I don't know about that, but years ago I was a huge Randy Orton fan, playing the video game, you know, watching the product, and I was like, oh man, I always wanted to tag with him or do anything, wrestling, whatever. And then now I'm on the main roster, and I'm like, oh wow, but you know, I was the United States champion, so you know, and Randy had his thing with the Fiend at the time, so we weren't really crossing paths. But at WrestleMania, I lost the title, and even before I lost the title, I said to Randy and a couple people, I was like, yo, how cool would it be if we formed a team? We would call ourselves RK Bro, like the Oba, bro. And then like a bunch of people laughed. They're like, yeah, that's a stupid idea. And I'm like, yeah. You know? And then the next night on Raw after WrestleMania, I got beat up by Bobby Lashley. You know, also a mixed martial artist, very talented. Yeah. He smoked me. Yeah. And then I didn't really know what was going to happen. I lost my title at Mania. I got beat up by the current world champion. And then the following week they go, you're wrestling Randy Orton. And I was like, no way. And I got the win. I earned his respect, and RK Bro was formed. You know, I feel like a lot of time when you say stuff to like the writing team or just in general, they might not like say, oh yeah, we're going to do that idea. But I feel like if you're talking to people and socializing with people, you'd be like, oh, how cool would this be? Or how cool would that be? You're like, could you imagine if this happened or that happened? All of a sudden you see it in the program, you know? And I've noticed that, and I think that's how RK Bro, you know, started from this to this. And then, you know, we started out hot, we're selling merch, we're killing it, we're doing everything. And then Randy took some time off, you know, he had to heal up, take care of some things. And I was kind of worried because I was like, you know, because I didn't know if Randy was just carrying it or if people were actually invested in me and me talking and this and that. And for 2 months, I kept RK Bro going. And when Randy finally came back, I was so excited. But then he, you know, RKO'd me.
Right.
It's Randy being Randy. I feel like he was just really excited to be in front of fans again because he didn't, you know, so. He got excited, he hit me with an RKO, but then I earned his respect back, and now look at us, SummerSlam, RK Bro versus AJ Styles, and almost a real-life giant for the Raw Tag Team Championships. I don't know. It's crazy how you think about how it started. It's just like, how funny would it be if we were RK Bro, and then we do it, and the story, and the thing is, that's the thing about wrestling. You can pitch it, you can sort of just like any fighter, you can be the best, whatever, but you never know who's going to be the next big thing or what's going to attract a mass audience or anything. And when RK Bro started to get legs and start taking off, because it wasn't supposed to last this long or at all. It was kind of Randy set up to beat me up, probably. And the people loved it so much that they just went with it. And I'm glad, Randy's glad.
He's happy with it.
Randy's extremely happy. Me and Randy work very well together. We enjoy each other's company. At least I can say I enjoy Randy's company. But I think deep down, Randy enjoys my company as well. You know, I think we make work easier for one another, and we push each other, but at the same time, I think we elevate each other because we're with each other. You know, so I'm with Randy Orton. I can't, I can't. It's got to be good, right? And I think he's the same way with me because he knows every time I'm in that ring, I bring it. So,
you are back in Vegas. Like I said, it's a homecoming of sorts. We briefly spoke about this off camera, but be honest with me, Matt. And by the way, what happened to Matt? Where did it go?
You know, I think it's because they didn't know they wanted to call me Matt or Matthew. I prefer Matthew, but the commentators would just call me Matt. And I didn't mind. I was like, whatever you can get out. But I think they wanted something that was solid. Okay. And they're like, and they called me one day and they go, hey, do you mind if we just call you Riddle, the original bro? I mean, and honestly, I was like, no. I go throughout my whole MMA career, people called me Riddle. Oh, Riddle's on the offense, or Riddle's this. Oh, hey, Riddle, come to practice. Or so like wrestling, like my whole life I've been called it. It is my last name, so it wasn't much of a change for me. And hey, if Vince wants me to change my name, sure. And if it's not even changed, it's just taking part of it away, even better.
Okay, fair enough. Just wanted to make sure you were cool with it.
Super cool. I get paid so much money. Right. I'm super cool. I'm Riddle.
Good for you. You come back to where you used to live, where you used to train, but also the home of the UFC. It's Las Vegas. Is there any part of you that is like, hey guys, look at, do you still use that as motivation, the way you were let go?
You know, Brandon Schwab talked to me. He's like, oh, you must use that as motivation. I said, I don't think I use it as motivation as much as like, because I worked as hard as I could to get as far as I could in the UFC. And yeah, I felt like I was shortchanged. And then I felt like everything outside of the UFC wasn't working, of course, with injuries and everything else. And I just felt like it was time to move on. And like, I have no ill will with the UFC. I mean, I don't like how they do business, but there's times where I don't like how the company I work for now does business. But at the same time, after working for the UFC, I kind of understand the billion-dollar corporation model, and I understand everybody's replaceable for a price or whatever, and if they can find something better for less, they're going to, just like any consumer would. So I think I look at it like that, and I look at my UFC tenure like, granted, they were rough on me on the way out, but when I got fired, I was getting paid like 50 grand a fight. When I won 25 and 25, and think about it, they can get a guy out, the Ultimate Fighter, that has way more press and steam coming off live TV every week, and pay him 8 and 8, and what? And they can fill up a whole card, and that's one payday for me if I win. So it's like, yeah, that's an easy choice, and they probably sell more tickets right now. So, like, you know how it is. At the end of the day, I have no ill will. But at the same time, yeah, I'm like, Dana, you know I would have probably been a world champion. And I'm not saying I would have. I say probably, because there's a lot of tough guys out there. And it's anybody who's ever fought knows it's some people get on a roll. When I got fired, I was on a roll. And I'm like, I still feel like I'm on that roll. And that's why I've had the success I've had in WWE and on the indies and everywhere else.
Do you still watch it?
I do. I watch some of the fights, you know, the more entertaining ones, you know.
The bigger ones, pay-per-views?
The bigger ones, or if friends come over. I really don't buy them. Not that I want, but it's just, you know, when you do something, it's like even like pro wrestling. Like if you ask me how much pro wrestling I watch now, it's like not that much because I wrestle like 4 times a week I watch it on the back monitor and I'm around it all the time. When I was in the UFC, I trained 6 days a week, training all the time. Really didn't watch that many fights. I feel like you kind of get zapped. You know, you're like, I'm good. Like I still love a good fight. I still love watching it. But like, I'm good. You know, like I'm not drawn to it anymore. Just like wrestling, I'm more drawn to like if I was gonna fight again, I wouldn't probably watch fights. I'd just fight. Right. And then if I wrestle, I'm just gonna wrestle. You know, that was the same thing when I was a kid. I didn't like watching sports. I liked doing them.
Have you already exceeded your expectations in terms of what you thought you were going to become when you entered the world of pro wrestling, or you have not scratched that yet?
Well, in my head, yeah. I mean, I'm I'm like, my indie career, if I was like, if this is it, I made it, baby. Like I'm pretty happy. I'm a very content person. Yeah, I've exceeded my expectations. Now, granted, my personal goals, like I've said, I've wanted to retire Brock Lesnar. Now, granted, he's probably not going to wrestle me, whatever. But I still have that as a goal. Probably will never happen. But just trying to obtain that goal, I'm going to reach so many other goals and so many accomplishments. It's going to be crazy. So, yeah. And plus, I forgot what we were talking about, but that'll happen to me. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I mean, you've been hit in the head a lot.
Yeah.
You've exceeded your expectations and then some. By the way, who came up with the gimmick with the sandals?
You know, when I got to NXT on the Indies, I just walked out there, just kicked them off onto the floor.
Yeah.
Did that. When I got to NXT, everybody's doing, flips, rolls, everybody's doing something cool, and they got strobe lights, and I'm like, I'm not that cool, I guess. Or maybe I'm really cool. I don't know. But I was like, I'm going to walk out there. I'm going to do that. I'm talking to Triple H. I'm going to walk out there like this, give it up to the people, maybe a couple fist bumps. He's like, okay, then what? Then I figured I would like run up and slide on the ring like on one knee, kind of look at the crowd all cool. Then I'll grab the rope and slingshot myself forward. But this time, usually I just do my pose, but this time, going to kick my flops off, then do my pose. And he was like, that's it? And I was like, yeah, like that's all I got. Like I don't have a roll or a trick I'm going to do. I have nothing else. That's it. And he was like, okay. And then when I did it, he was like, that's gold. Like, that's gold. Especially the first time I did it on NXT TV, I kicked it off, and the flip-flop, like, landed perfectly on its side, right in the corner camera. And then they asked me if I could do that every time, and I was like, definitely not. It's a random thing. Sometimes one time I hit this older woman in the crowd. It just went flying and cracked her in the face. I was like, oh, goodness. Some people catch them. But you got to be careful. If you come to an original Bro Riddle match, you got to watch out for the flops.
What about the scooter?
The scooter I don't throw into the crowd.
No, I know. But I love the scooter, but I got to be honest. It's a very sort of like, it looks like a slippery-ish ramp. I'm always afraid that you're going to wipe out.
I'm pretty good. I used to skateboard, scooter. Okay. I'm pretty good on a board type situation. Okay. So, but the riskiest situation with the scooter was WrestleMania. Because of all the rain. And, the mats on the floor, they're like wrestling mats. And once those get wet, they're sweaty, they're slick. So when I was doing a rehearsal, I did a rehearsal and it was raining. And I went to make the turn. I was going really fast because the ramp's wet. I couldn't hit the brakes. And I just like crashed into the stairs. And they're like, oh no. And I was like, well, if that happens, it'll be hilarious and whatever, But like, there's nothing I can do.
Right.
But fortunately enough, I did not fall at WrestleMania. I made it down the ramp, cruised around, did my pose, whole stadium thing. It was sweet.
The build between you and Randy has been a lot of fun. For you, obviously you like working with Randy a lot.
I do.
Singles, tag team, what do you prefer?
I'm selfish. I love being the star, so singles is my first love, for sure. But I've had so much success with certain individuals and tag teams, and sometimes when you're by yourself, like, it's hard to get all your personality traits in front of people because it's just you. But when you have a partner that you're not necessarily fighting, but you're cohesive with, you kind of see different elements of people. So I feel like being a tag wrestler has let my personality and my entertaining character side out more than my singles work. But because I fought and everything else, I like being competitive. I love being in the ring, and I like hitting hard and getting hit. So it's like, that's gonna be my first love. But tag wrestling's a close second. I mean, you only asked me two. But yeah.
One or the other.
It's hard to pick. I mean, when I'm tagging with Randy, it's number one.
Right.
If I'm not tagging with Randy, or Pete Dunne. I love Pete Dunne too. If I'm tagging with somebody, maybe Rob Van Dam, then that's still number one. He's cool too. After that, singles competition.
The merch is great. The logo, it's you came up with that?
It's a viper,
yes,
but with my hair and my hat. You like that?
It's tremendous.
Yeah.
Look, I said it to you off camera. I want to say it for the public. I hope you don't feel like it's condescending to say, I feel proud of you. When I see you succeed, as someone who's kicked when he was down, I'm like, that man looked at everyone and said, I'm going to be better off doing something else, and you've become 10 times the star that you were back then. So I salute you, my friend, and I wish you nothing but the best, continued success. It's a beautiful thing to watch you grow into this character, and I feel like you are going to continue to outlast any kind of expectation that you had, because I mean, you're a star. You don't need me to say it. You're a star. It's a great thing. So congrats on your success and good luck on Saturday.
I appreciate it, bro. Thank you so much for having me, and likewise too. I know you've been in and out and doing your thing, and hey, you just can't get rid of us, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, bro.